Good afternoon and welcome to KZGN-TV's debate with the City Council candidates of Ridgecrest, California. And we thank you all for coming. There are 6 of you here. There is a 7th candidate who apparently is having open heart surgery tomorrow. So obviously he won't be here tonight. And his name is? Scott Leahy. Okay. So what I'd like you guys to do is introduce yourselves, because a lot of people don't know you, a lot of people do know you. But if you would introduce yourselves a little bit, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll begin with our questions. If you would start, please, first.
My name is Warren Cox. I'm currently the chair of the Planning Commission. I've lived in the Valley about 40 years. My wife was raised here. I raised 4 children here. They graduated from Beres and have since come back to work on the Naval Weapons Center. I've been blessed by this community in the aspect that I came here, opened a business, come to find out I opened several businesses which became successful, and I found that my community here was very supportive. And so through the years, working hard and taking care of family, you found that you had less time to participate in civic activities. And at this time in my life, I felt that it was important to give back, because my community has been very good to my family and I. So I accepted the responsibility of going on the Planning Commission and have now decided to run for City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
My name is Wallace Martin. Is that good? A little bit further. Okay. My wife and I came here 34 years ago. We raised our 2 children, Ashley and Matthew. Love the little town. I've worked for the Department of Defense for 23 years and 16 years in private industry. I'm a small business owner as well. My wife is an RN. She's been our Kern County public health nurse in Ridgecrest for 32 years. She's given more shots out than Tommy T's, I think. I've got a degree in business administration from CSUB. I also graduated with my AA right up on the hill at Saracoso. Also USL in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I'm a Fighting Tiger fan from LSU. So I have only one goal, that's to better our city. That's it. I don't have any other private, personal motivations. I have no interest in sniffing out any good deals from the city. I've already got a fantastic job on base. My children are very close, but they're out of the house, and so I have time. I have a big job on base, and this is a big job, but you know, if you want something done, you give it to a busy person, and I'm looking forward to serve. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, next.
My name is Lindsey Stevens. We have lived here for just over 4 years. We moved from Kansas, where I was born and raised. I received my bachelor's of architecture studies and my master's in urban planning from there, and worked in the planning field for a number of years before becoming a wife and a stay-at-home mom. My husband works on base and loves his job. I have 3 little girls, and I currently sit on the Planning Commission as well. And I have decided that I think I should step in and serve our city and represent the millennial generation. So.
Okay. Next.
Hello, I'm Tom Wiknich. I've been here since 1979. I have my wife, Shannon, and I have a pretty good family. I've got my daughter, Denise, and my grandkids, and I've even got a great-grandson. I also have stepdaughter, Nicole and Elizabeth, and their husbands. And this is just something for me to do for the community. I like to be here. I like to be involved with the city and the community. I've served on the Ridgecrest Planning Commission in the past. I've been on the city council before. I've been the vice mayor before. And it's always satisfying to do things for the community. I like to be involved in the community by that I have my own business now. I am retired from the base. I got a bachelor's degree from the University of Midlands. I've also gotten certification from the Department of Defense in program management and contract management. I'm also the president of a nonprofit organization, so I've got experience in that area. The business side of me is I have 2 businesses that are going on, just like Mr. Cox on the end there, and believe in this community, invested in this community, and believe that we should be able to go forward. And I look forward to being your city councilman. Thank you.
Next.
Hi, I'm Lori Acton, and currently your vice mayor. I've served for the last 4 years on council, and I absolutely love what I do. It's been a humbling experience, and I'm very grateful. I believe in economic development and job creation. That's why I ran 4 years ago, and I still think that is a need we have here today. I was delivered by Dr. Drummond in 1969, so I've been here just a little bit. My family is here. My children are grown, and I'm a grandma. Again, I just love what I do. It's a way to give back and to help people on a larger scale, and that's why I do what I do. I'm very proud of the things that we've accomplished, such as putting money in the reserve because it was at 0 when I was elected, and bringing in other businesses such as the Marshalls and Joanne Fabrics and the shoe store, and different things have happened. And it's been, like I said, a wonderful experience. I think we've had a good mix. I think we're progressive. I'm not quite a millennial, but I have some, and I do know how to represent them. I'm also big on the technology side, and I think we need to continue to move forward and engage and meet people where they are, because not everybody's going to come to a council meeting, but everybody has Facebook. Everybody knows how to send a text. Well, just about. So, and I look forward to bringing more of that to the people. Thank you.
Okay. David?
63, huh, Lori? 69. Oh, 69. Well, by golly, I'm still the old man on the block. I came here in 68. So I got you by a year. I have been an engineer most of my life after I got my degree from UC Berkeley. And I worked in the defense industry practically most of that time. I've learned a lot of skills in that meantime. Engineers tend to analyze, and I have still maintained that skill. I even had it before I became an engineer, I think. I definitely am the old man on the block, but people just ask me, well, why did you finally decide to run? Because somebody a long time ago said, why don't you run? Well, I had some restrictions then, and some of those are gone now. So I watched some developments in the city, and I think we can do better. I think we can try some different things, and I'm not going to get those all in a minute and a half or whatever I've got here, but eventually I hope I can get them across.
Okay,
And,
we'll give you a chance because now you're done.
That's
Okay. What we want to do now is start asking some questions, and we'll see how that goes. And if our timing doesn't work, we can change it because we can be flexible. So we're going to give you each a minute and a half to answer the question, and I think Matthew's going to start with the first question.
Thank you, Lois. Question number 1 would go to Mr. Cox. Your question, sir, is what do you consider the most important issue facing the city? What are your ideas about responding to this issue?
Well, in my opinion, one of the most, I've served on the Planning Commission now for 2 years, almost 2 years. And I think the layperson that comes in has no idea really how city government works, where we get our funding. And so as you go through this process, there's a learning curve. And as part of that, you see where the shortcomings are. And everything has shortcomings. So the simple answer is leadership. I've sat down with council members, I've sat down with our city manager, and suggested that sometimes it appears as though the tail is wagging the dog. That direction needs to come from the council, and the goals should come from the council. The priorities should come from the council, and that the staff, the management, should follow through with that direction. So for me, it's leadership. And so you ask, what would I do? I think I've kind of lined that out. I'm not waiting for the election because I'm involved with it already through the Planning Commission, and in trying to prepare a better way so that we have direction and fulfillment. I believe that we should have results in what we're doing instead of talking about the same things. So that would be my answer as leadership.
Would you like to say something in regard to the question that he answered?
No.
No.
I'm okay. Thank you.
Well, then you'll go with the next question.
All right. Would you vote to give the city manager a raise during a budget year classified as a fiscal crisis?
No, I would not. And in answer to that question, I've had, like I said, I've had salaried positions with the base. I've also had 16 years in private industry, many of those as a 100% commission person in software sales and real estate and as some national programs where you have to flat produce, and all of your salary and every dime that you make is directly tied to your productivity. End of story. So I'm not the guy to ask that question. I believe that you need to be paid in direct proportion to what you produce. I do not necessarily believe in time and grade, and I don't believe in longevity pay and all these sorts of things. So when you're in a situation where you have a small town, and we are now rated in the top 10 most likely cities to fail in California by the planning group. I have this on my website, and it's posted. When you have a situation like that, I had somebody at the meeting the other day, an older woman, say, "Mr. Martin, but he's the CEO of our company." And my answer to that is yes. Well, CEOs, most of them, their profits and their salaries are directly tied to the success of their company. And if that's the case, we would have had a city manager, another one, quite a while ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Lindsey, do you have any remarks?
No, I agree with him.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I spent 7 years on Planning Commission. I found it very important and something that our town wanted. But now there's some questions, and I'd like to know what you think. Do you believe that we need a Planning Commission?
Yes, I believe that we need a planning commission. I also believe that we need a city planner if we want to grow our town. I think it's important because what I have seen in my short time being on planning commission is we need to go through and evaluate if we are being friendly to development. And it seems like in my short time we are not the most friendly to development. We have a lot of extra requirements and things. I've heard several times developers say that they've come in and tried to work with us, but we're just too difficult to work with, and they've packed up and left. So I think a planning commission is important because we can have that perspective rather than be so close to following master plans and such that we have a different perspective. So yeah, I'd like to see our town be more business and development friendly. So I think having a planning commission is important to keeping that true.
Tom, do you want to address that?
Can I address Mr. Cox's question?
Certainly.
Okay. I'd like to go, I think the question was, what's the most important thing that the city is facing, I think was the question. And I think that's a really important question that I would want to answer, and that is that we do have to make sure we maintain our police and our infrastructure and our fire services. We need to keep this. But economic development is a huge, very important thing that we have to go towards. And the economic development, I hope we get more questions on this coming up, but without economic development, the city is going to not have enough money to stay open. We need to generate revenue, and that's the only way to do it.
Thank you.
Now,
Yes. No, Mr.
No, give me a question.
Now he gets his
now
question.
he gets his
I
question.
haven't my question yet.
You gotta help me. No. Let me have a thing. Is it your turn?
No, you just asked about planning commission.
I want to do all the questions.
All right, sorry. Thank you. So my question to Mr. Wiknich is, we have had no financial reporting as was required from the 3 city ventures funded by taxpayers. Who should be held responsible for that? And what action, if any, would you take if elected?
That's a real good question, because the city did in the past a couple years ago, or a little over a year ago, they did award money out to 3 companies, actually 4 companies, to help create economic development and hopefully create new jobs. I was not very happy with the decisions made on that, because the numbers that these companies brought forward as far as the jobs they were creating, with the amount of money that they were awarded, it just wasn't possible to bring on the amount of people that they said they were going to hire and the amount of money that they were going to get from the city to do that. Once you load up a person's salary with all their benefits and vacation and everything, there just wasn't enough money there to do that. Now, I believe that we should do an audit, and I believe the finance is going to do an audit of these businesses. We should get a report from these businesses on what they've done as compared to what they said they were going to do and what they've actually done. It is very important that we find out the results of that investment that the city made in those companies. One of them was also a company, I believe, that was supposed to go out and find new businesses to come to Ridgecrest. That is a very important one, and I believe that particular company is having some progress in that area. But again, all 4 of these companies, we need to have them come back in a public meeting and actually put it out there to the people what the accomplishments have been.
Okay. Would you like to say something about that, Lori?
I would. I can
Okay.
actually answer a question.
And then I'll get you a question.
Okay. So in regards to that, I do know that that is coming forward. The one company that was supposed to do the bring the jobs in has struggled, has not produced, and actually has been let go because of that. They have not produced any results, and it's been more smoke and mirrors, for lack of a better phrase, than I can think of at the moment, which is why during the budget hearings we actually talked about this, brought it forward, discussed it, and then chose to terminate or not to renew the contract with them, because after 2 years we have no results and very little to show for it. As to the other companies, all I know is that this has been brought to the council's attention. There has been paperwork and different things going back and forth, so you should see some answers shortly. That's what I do know that I can answer.
Hi, Lori. All right. What are your ideas for stimulating economic development?
When you talk about economic development, I want to make sure we're on the same page, because a lot of people think that means I'm going to bring in retail. But that's not always the case, because we are looking at industry.
Any ideas you might have?
Sure. We have a lot, actually. I went down to ICSC West Coast and ICSC Nationals. Both, that's the largest retail shows in the country. That's where I meet with retailers as well as wholesalers. We already talked to, I can't divulge, but there's a company that is looking to do stuff here that we've never had in our community before. Is only going to create about 10 jobs, but it's a start. Then we have about 4 other retail companies that we know of that are coming in. We've had talks with the developers, or developer, for the new Walmart. So there's a lot on the table. And I do work a lot with Gary Parsons, and I go and do a lot of stuff with him to help bring in and stimulate that. And we use our contacts, and we talk at the state level and the different programs with grants going on. Where can we stimulate? Where can we bring stuff in? What can we do? What aren't we capitalizing on? I know broadband's been a hot issue. I have served on the Eastern Sierra Connect Regional Broadband Consortia, which is one of the 14 appointed by the governor for the state for many years now. So we work on that. We work on making it work. So that's just a few, and I have a lot more.
Mm-hmm. And so you see it more as bringing business in. Is there anything to stimulate the businesses here, or help small business here, or anything of that nature?
We actually do have some funding for the businesses here, and we have tried to stimulate in the past, at least in the Balsam district, but the businesses were very resistant to that. That doesn't mean they still are, and I would love to revisit that issue with any of the business owners that wish to talk about it, because I'd be glad to help in any way I can.
Thank you. And so, Dave Matthews, do you have anything to comment on her or any of the other questions that you've heard so far?
The one, it's not necessarily a rebuttal, it's kind of a clarification I want to ask for, and that is, why hasn't that company that was let go been publicized?
Yes.
Tom apparently didn't understand that it was gone, and neither did I. But there's also a lot of other things that I think we need to address, and I'm looking forward to hearing some of the reports for the businesses that are still operating. I've been itching for that information quite a while now.
Yeah, it would
So that's
be valuable
would
to
you
know
please speak
how
up?
that.
I got a fan over here. It's kind of hard to hear you people.
Okay. Yeah, so it would be good to know how that resolved, the whole matter of not renewing the contract, how it resolved with the grant. Thank you.
Did they have to pay it back?
Not to my knowledge.
No, just give it to them. It didn't work. And okay, okay. Let's talk about money from a little different standpoint. What are your ideas for increasing revenue in the city other than economic development?
Well, one of the things that I wanted to look at is that a lot of our problems, and people don't seem to really catch this very often, is not the city itself. It's Kern County, it's the state of California, and it's the federal government. And I would like to see us become maybe what you might call a sanctuary city, where we tell the state, we're not going to do that anymore, and we're going to give these people a different way to go. There's also some issues that I may be out there that I would like for us to look into, and that is, I think the city has boundaries behind the gate. And as far as I know, we are not getting any revenue, tax-wise, property tax or anything else, from those properties, and I think we should. So that's something I want to look into. And there's some other ideas about bringing other businesses in that I've got in mind too.
Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I get to give another question to Mr. Cox. Oh, yes, yeah. You have 45 seconds for rebuttal, but I just wanted to say that we're reading down a list of questions, so it's not like we're making up the question when we get each individual. So there's no bias one way or the other. So, Mr. Cox, would you like to respond to anything that anyone has said so far?
Well, I'd like to talk for just a minute or 45 seconds on what Dave Matthews was his subject, because there are things. When you look at Kern County, and they're not in very good shape either, most of this being caused by the state, but the reality is our city only gets 5% of the property tax. Other cities, 12, 15, even up to 20% of our property tax. When you talk about revenue into the city, as far as the health of a city, that becomes a big deal. The Navy doesn't have a program like the Air Force does to where we can actually tax them. But the idea is what can we do here locally? One of the ideas that I brought early on when I was appointed as a planning commissioner went to what they're working on right now, which is the broadband. And so broadband capabilities, but there's a number of cities that utilize their capabilities to actually generate revenue rather than turn it to private business. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Your question, sir. Would you support a new city policy that requires that in the future, city department heads and above be required to be residents of the Indian Wells Valley?
Well, right now we have a city manager that he lives in Fresno. And, so I would think where you make your living from the city that you probably should be invested in your city. And so, yeah, I think it would probably be a requirement if we were looking for a manager or a clerk or a financial person such as Ty. I think that it would be important that they want to become part of our community, because it's pretty hard to say, I really want to make a change here. I want to make a difference. I want to be invested. I want to become familiar with the problems and create solutions. If, at the end of the day I go home and it's not my problem. And that becomes concerning. And so, yeah, I think that in the future that ought to be a consideration. It's not to preclude us from looking outside the valley for qualified employees, but on the same token, do they want to become part of the solution, or do they want to stay aloof from our community?
Okay, respond?
Yes, no, I agree with that, big time. I think that if you're in the community and you're the CEO of your company, you might ought to live in the town where your company is doing business. That's pretty simple to me. It's a big difference when you're not directly and personally and emotionally and financially and spiritually invested in the place that's paying your salary. So, absolutely. And one other, I'll add my other 12 seconds rebuttal to Mr. Tom's comment. I think that any contractor, a subcontractor of the city, any contract they needs to be busted up into 4 or 5 phases, and they have to deliver successfully on each phase before we move to the next one. I was involved with one years ago with a front porch deal, and I insisted on it, and that we break it up into 5 stages, and I actually ended up saving the city a fair amount of money because they didn't deliver on that, and we called it quits before it got too deep.
Okay, so let's see. I would like to ask if okay. Well, I was looking for one in particular I had here, but it is escaping me. So I'll ask about quality of life. And are you pro quality of life, and what does that mean to you?
Well, I think quality of life is an all-encompassing thing. And to me, is if you had to nail it in 15 seconds, is do you want to live there or not? How about that one? And I think that if you're in a little town and you ask 25 people, do you like to live here? I mean, the answer you get, you might want to pay attention to. Quality of life is everything. It's recreation. It's your roads. It's how pretty your town is. It's how responsive your city is. It's how the schools work. It's do you like to live there? Are you glad to get out of your house and go to work and get from your work, and are you glad about the house you live in? Is it a fair enough value? Quality of life is an all-encompassing thing.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. And Lindsey, anything you'd care to comment on for 45 seconds?
Yes. It's a combination of his question and his question about revenue and what our problems are. And I think a big issue is here that we tend to be reactive. That's what I've been noticing. Rather than being proactive, we're given partial information at the last minute, and we need to be fully educated and have the information well in advance so that we can thoroughly think through it to know if this is a good decision for our city. And I think we also need to be presented with multiple solutions, not just one alternative, but multiple, so that we can use our own brains, which we are elected to do and represent the city, to help make the best choice for them and not just be dictated what that best choice should be. So that's my response to the questions. I guess also with ideas for revenue, I've touched on this before, but maybe looking at expanding the city boundaries. We have a lot of people that live just on one side of the street that aren't part of our city. That could help increase our property tax base. Also looking at the property tax, getting our fair share, what we can get from the Navy as well. Those are some other things. So.
Thank you.
Tom, do you want to talk about that?
If I get my questions.
Well, she gave me this. I thought she'd already asked you a question. You haven't asked her a question?
She
Yes,
just
did.
asked a question to Wallace.
That was her 45-minute rebuttal,
45 minutes.
or 45 second.
Okay, let me give you a question because apparently my little ticker's not ticking. I apologize for that. This is somewhat in line with what we've been talking about. The other day, Rear Admiral Brian Corey addressed the Chamber of Commerce, the council, both of them, and he said that the base loses about half of their employees before they get to 10 years. And he wants to know if there is any responsibility that the city has to help him to keep his workforce. It could be quality of life, as we talked about. It could be something else. And I'd like to know, how do we make this place more likable for young professionals? Okay?
All right. Well, that's one of the main reasons why I'm running, is because in the time that we've lived here, we've had a number of friends move away because the quality of life isn't what they desire. And so that's what I want to help be part of the solution for. I want to help make this a town that people love and want to live in and want to be a part of, not they try and escape from every weekend. And I think that's looking at our quality of life. Is there certain things like restaurants or stores or opportunities? And I think part of it too is educating the people. I think a lot of people don't know of the things available here. The Matteringham Museum having family day once a month and a children's hour. I think a lot of people don't know about that. We participate. Home Depot has a kids workshop every month too, and just getting people tied in to know what's going on in our city. We had that fantastic thing that Matthew threw, the international dinner. That was awesome. There was not that many millennial people there, but I think if we do a better job of advertising it on Facebook and putting it out there and just letting them know what is happening in their own city, the stores that are available here, and just promoting it more too will help them buy into improving our city and staying here.
And you think some way that city council could do that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think city council should be prioritizing making sure that we're not hemorrhaging that generation anymore and we're retaining them. Because if we're losing the millennial generation and we're only retaining the baby boomers and up, then our town's going to die.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, Tom.
I'm one of those baby boomers.
Yeah. We're not dead yet, are we?
That's right. Just to tack on a little bit more on how important it is for the new employees that we do get to keep them here. One of the things that's so important to any community is new dollars coming in, and that's usually tied to new business or new industry. However, these new employees that we're getting, if you just think about the potential impact of 600 new employees, which I think the Admiral said the other night, if only 10% of those employees buy a new house in Ridgecrest, the impact of property tax revenue, new revenue for the city is very important. Like, for example, in 2015, the city had 33 new homes built. They had over $19 million worth of new property taxes come in, okay, as far as the valuation. Well, that gets turned into about $95,000 more in additional property tax revenue. This year, we've already got 35 residential homes break ground in the city of Ridgecrest. That's almost $5 million. And again, we have that tax revenue. That's around $35,000 a year, more revenue to the city of Ridgecrest. So these new people coming here are so important to generating new income.
Thank you. Now time for your question. Mr. Wiknich, would you support a regulation that says no policy can be voted on by council without at least 2 weeks lead time from when the policy is proposed and publicly presented to the community in its complete form?
Well, you mean, are you referring to a policy that for the city policy or
any
internal or external
resolution,
policy?
action, formal city council action?
So you're talking more about an agenda item?
Yes.
Okay. Definitely, the city council needs to provide the people more time to get the subject matter and have a chance to an opportunity to analyze it and figure out their questions. So often, the city council doesn't even get the backup material until the night of the meeting or the day of the meeting. That is unacceptable. That makes it so that we the people, also don't see it until the last minute. And there's no opportunity for us to analyze it and figure out what kind of comments we would want to make. As one that attends just about every council meeting, even though I'm not on the council, a lot of times after the meeting is over and I go home and go over the things that they talked about, I think about things I wish I would have said. But I didn't have the information to be able to do that at the time. And there's so much information that they have. The city council also gets more information to help make them the decision that they actually have. They need to take more time to explain that to the people when they're making the decision, their background in why they're making that decision, because they have more information than we have quite often, especially if they go in and talk to staff and get more information that they know we don't know when we're sitting out in the audience. We don't know why they're actually deciding the way they are, especially on more controversial issues. Your mundane things, it's not that important, but the important ones that affect us every day should have more time for us, we the people, to see.
Okay. Lori, is there anything you would like to address or rebut?
Yep. I sure do. And I'm going to touch on several things at once. Number one, city manager lives in town, has a place here. Didn't know if y'all knew that or not. That doesn't mean his wife doesn't have one up there in Fresno because she still works up there and he's still clearing away his late mother's home. But he lives here in town. So I find that really unpalatable for people to accuse him of that. So he does have to deal with some of the rules and regulations that we all have to deal with, that we like or don't like. Okay? Number two, the property tax and PILT. PILT is only payable to counties, not to cities. And that would be the payment in lieu of taxes for your funds from the base. So, yes, we are working on that. And the property tax we're aware of, and we're working on that. That doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight, unfortunately, and I hate that. I'll stop there on my rebuttal stuff for now.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you.
Please, louder.
All right. What do you think have been major factors, whether county, state, or federal, that have affected the economics of our community?
Which of the
any
entities?
outside government at either a county, state, or federal level that have affected the economics of this community?
Yeah. State for sure, and I'm not just talking about unfunded mandates. I'm talking about AB 109 and Prop 47 with the prisoners and prison reform, and now you're looking at 57 coming out on the ballot, which is scary, scary stuff, folks. Please vote no. That's
and why?
Because that is more crimes that are felonies turned into misdemeanors, and these are violent crimes. So it's a very, very scary time that we live in. AB 109 was the prison reform. It turned a lot of prisoners loose, which in turn caused our crime to go up. Burglary, which means more need for police, which is why we have Measure B coming before you, the new Measure L. It's just a scary time for that. It drains our resources. Then you have the county that closed the jail. That's another impact to our budget. The county with the property tax, because it hasn't been raised since 1972, also affects us greatly. So all of those factors come together. I cannot think of any federal that have specifically, well, I know, but I'm just trying to think off the top of my head to wrap it up quick, and I cannot. I'm just thinking of the immediate impacts at the moment.
Thank you very much. And so then, Dave Matthews, would you care to respond?
Yes, mostly I agree with what Lori was saying there, except for one thing. The property tax issue, that's not quite true, because incrementally they do go up. That was part of whatever the prop was.
It expired, Prop 13.
It did?
Well, according to...
I was not aware of that, but I certainly will look into it. I would like to also mention something about the proposal that Matthew mentioned about requiring the city manager to live here. I don't think that needs to be a requirement, a hard, fast requirement. I think that's something that could be addressed by for every individual, and because there's circumstances, and we can't dictate, how person lives his life when he's not on the job. And as far as what what Wallace said about CEOs, well, there's a lot of CEOs or a lot of companies that do business in Ridgecrest that don't have their CEOs living here, believe me.
Thank you very much.
Okay, are you ready to respond?
Yeah, I'd actually like to talk about a couple of.
You want to give him my
Get a
question?
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
I know. I asked him to rebut.
I was rebutting.
Sorry.
I get so confused.
That's all right. Give it to him.
I did so good the other night. I should turn the pages back. Okay, this one's pretty simple. If a penny saved is a penny earned, what opportunities do you see for the city to earn that penny?
Well, we're going to have to investigate that some more, like I said, with the other ideas. As far as the saving part, I'm not sure that there's much opportunity to do that these days. I wrote a little biography for Matthew's dinner tomorrow night, and I mentioned that when I got married, my wife and I both worked to save money so that I could go finish my college education. Well, you hear nowadays that the students come out deep in debt. And that, to me, is a philosophy that has changed over the years, and I think is pathetic. That's just to point out that where the city is going to save right now is very hard to determine.
Okay. Now, would you like to?
Thank you. The question was asked about lead time and information. One of the things that I've suggested in the past is that when you have a resolution that comes before the public as a public hearing, that it's important, under the Brown Act, it's the only time that the 5 council members can actually get together and communicate and discuss an item. So as they discuss it, they should get the staff report, they should hear from the public. But many times what I've seen in the last 2 years is that they're actually asked to vote on it that night. And my suggestion is that it should then go back to the next council meeting so that they can do their homework. They can then discuss it again, hear from the public again before they're asked to make a decision. Many times it's, I have to make a decision right now. And back to the retention of our employees, there's many that come in that are single. Look at what there is for the singles to do. If it's not go belly up to the bar, what is there for them to do? Many of them say, I'll take my 5 years, and I'm going someplace else because there's nothing for them to do. Now, there are those that get involved in hiking, skiing, motorcycling, and we have all those activities around here, but there's a lot of them that don't do those things. And so what is there for the youth to do? And there's opportunities out there where we can work with the base in a unison to try and culminate some sort of retention on their part.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Now he gets a question.
All right. Thank you. Question for Mr. Cox. How do you feel about the use of attorneys? Should Ridgecrest be relying on lawsuits to get things done? If so, please cite an example of where that has yielded a payback.
Well, you know, it depends. It depends on the right attorney, I think, more than anything else, because so many times, yes, you have to have legal opinion. When you're doing law, when you're doing resolutions, you have to abide by the law. You have the Brown Act. There's a lot of things that go in. You're asking 5 members who are generally lay people that are not attorneys in most cases, and so they need to be protected and guided down that path. So yes, it is important. But to use them as maybe your personal counselor, I think should be resisted because that's a cost to the city, if that's done. Some of the things that are hard is if we do investigations on people at the public's expense, whether it's an employee or others, and that's something that could have been handled in-house. That could have been done by management. It could have been done by whatever, but sometimes we see investigative services, we see legal services, and so on and so forth done when really we're paying a manager to be a manager, or a staff member over a department to be the head of that, that should take care of his or her employees. So, yeah, I think we need to be careful. They're absolutely essential, but I think sometimes they're abused.
Thank you.
Well, just to follow up on the rebuttal there concerning the city council having enough time, I think in every movie there's a famous line. The Wizard of Oz had, we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. And I think one of the greatest lines that will be recorded in the U.S. historical world books for the next 10,000 years is Ms. Pelosi's comment, we have to pass it to find out what's in it. And I think that the problems that we have is that so much of this foolishness starts at the highest level, then it goes to state, then it goes to county, and it makes its way into the city councils all over the country. It's nonsense. I'm a research person, I'm a writer, and I have to have time to do homework. So that's my rebuttal to that.
So you would agree with the wait?
Yeah,
2 weeks?
absolutely.
Okay.
I'd even add some to it.
Awesome. You want to ask him a question?
Okay. Yes. Let me ask Mr. Martin a question here. You brought up a question I would like to ask you.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a long-winded question. But Ridgecrest, the city, has talked about branding our community for many years, which, along with being home to the Naval Air Weapons Station, there are churches populate numerous corners and main streets throughout our community. We're home to the Bureau of Land Management Horse and Burro Adoption Center, the Coso Petroglyphs and Petroglyph Festival. We're central to off-road recreational vehicle racing and strategically located to the 4th-ranked vacation destination in California, Death Valley National Park. How do you characterize Ridgecrest, or how would you see it branded in light of all the many things and I've only mentioned a few. I didn't mention the stars and all of that, but to you, folks friends, family outside of the community, how do you characterize Ridgecrest for your own personal branding of it?
Well, first off, I'll say I've been a walking chamber of commerce for this little town, and some of my family back in Louisiana going, are you kidding me? But we've been here a long time and had many offers to leave and haven't done it. I like the little town. As far as branding, I love what's happening. We are late with the Petroglyph Festival. One of the things in my campaign is that I want to go full bore to get that thing up to snuff to where we're competing with the incredible success that Kernville has done, that Lone Pine has done, that Bishop has done with 50,000 people a year. And I've been here a long time. I watched each of these things start from a fledgling nothing. Okay, when you've been here long enough, you get to see stuff build and grow. So I'm thrilled. I want to pump up our Petroglyph Festival big time. The other thing that I have in my platform dealing with this, how do you brand the town? The Death Valley National Park is the most visited national park by Europeans in the United States, period.
Number one.
Number one.
Number one.
And that's because nowhere else on earth can you go visit the moon and still be in the United States. Yeah. So anyway, I'll make it quick. Here's the deal. I want to boost our film business and tourism. That's a big point with me, and I have it in my platform. Don't have time. Out of time, as always. But what I want to do is build that up to where it has a key component like the Lone Pine Film Festival, because I think we can steal so many of their ideas and add to them and make it better and garnish maybe one extra day of all those visitors attending Death Valley to come over here, spend one day, if we can create something unique like our film tour thing with the little QR codes that they're trying to do, where you can go to the film thing, see a video clip, get excited. None of that happens in Death Valley. It's a unique thing that we can do, and that's one thing that I'd like to bring.
Thank you very much. I think I need to ask if you have a rebuttal.
I'm good. I agree.
Okay.
Go. You agree? That's it. We're ready.
Yes, you can ask your question.
Okay. What are your ideas for the buildup of homeless, transient, indigent people that are beginning to collect in Ridgecrest? Do you have an answer?
Okay. Well, I think I was shocked to learn that we actually don't have a homeless shelter here. I've seen that some of the churches have started some free meal programs, and that's nice. I think we should continue to facilitate churches if they want to start a homeless shelter or offer free meal programs. That's a good way to start. I think we have low-income housing here, so that's an option. I think I have a friend actually who manages Papa John's, and they have talked about how hard of a time they've had finding employees. So I think some of it comes from, maybe this ties into her question about federal level. I think maybe sometimes we give few too many free handouts and people don't want to get a job. And so I think we have jobs available. I've seen signs at lots of the fast food restaurants that they're hiring. So I think maybe helping those people get located to those restaurants and getting them tied into the low-income housing is a solution for the homeless issue locally.
Should that be a city committee or something like that?
I think that's probably more left up to churches and such, nonprofits, not so much for the city to dabble in. I think we have a lot of other issues that we need to handle. So.
Okay, Tom, would you like to talk to that? Or to something?
I really have nothing to add to that, except I want to reply to one of the questions that what are the things that the city can actually do to try and inspire more revenue in the city of Ridgecrest. One of my ideas, and I did try this back about 10 years ago, I coordinated an effort through the Chamber of Commerce here in Ridgecrest to start and promote Ridgecrest as the shopping center of the Eastern Sierra, from Mammoth to California City. And to do that, I arranged for the city to for businesses here locally to start advertising in newspapers up all the way to Mammoth and to Bishop, because there's a lot of choices that those people make on where they shop. And they can either turn around and go to Reno, which the money just leaves California completely, or we can encourage them to come down here. There was success in this. However, it takes the partnership between the city and the business community through the Chamber of Commerce to make that happen. But any new dollar that comes to Ridgecrest goes over and over, and it's new money that comes in, and that's what's so important to increasing any revenue in this town.
Thank you. Mr. Wiknich, this question regards the water situation facing our valley. Do you have any specific ideas for conserving, importing, or reusing water? Are you in agreement with the amount of water being used by agriculture locally? And finally, do you think we have time to wait for the results of scientific studies before making decisions on plans, or do we start making plans now?
Okay, this could be a real long answer, so I'm going to try and put it into a minute and 30 seconds, okay? Because I definitely have a solution to the problem, okay? Only thing is, it would take politicians in Sacramento to get off their butts and do something, all right? And what I'm saying by that is that we need a statewide water system. We need a state system that will move and capture water, store it, and move it around the state to where it's needed when it's needed. They have resisted to do that. Right now, 74% of the fresh water that falls in California goes out into the San Francisco Bay, out into the Pacific Ocean. That's a crime. That's free water that we should be storing. We should install a water system that brings that water down into the San Joaquin Valley. And oh, by the way, if we do have a good winter and there's water and we finally fill up Lake Isabel again, we should bring a pipeline from over there into the Indian Wells Valley to bring new water into this valley. It can be done. We can handle floods every year. We can handle disasters. We can handle tornadoes. There's money to do it if there's always money to do that. But it's a solution that everybody has to work on. I would promote the GSA, which just started up. The first action they take, they should do a resolution to the city, to Sacramento, to knock it off and do their share in solving the state's water problem. It is a state water problem. And oh, by the way, you know what? It could even be a national water problem too. I mean, back in the 50s, Eisenhower said something about a freeway system throughout the whole country, and they built it. What about a national water system? Use the freeway right-of-ways that the federal government already owns, and use those right-of-ways and put a water system for the whole country, and have those areas where they have flooding now, store the water, and again, move the water around. Yeah, that's big thinking, and say, yeah, that'll never happen, Tom. It probably wouldn't, but maybe it should. We don't have to have a water problem in this country. We can, and there is a solution to do it.
Thank you very much. Yes, Lori, would you like to respond to that or anything else?
Amen. I totally agree with you. I sat on the Cooperative Water Management Group under Supervisor McQuiston since 2010. I've been involved with water. I've learned a lot. I'm a banker by trade, so overdraft to me meant you didn't have money in your checking account. I had to learn a lot about water in a very short amount of time. And it's a problem everywhere, and I agree with you, absolutely agree with you. And there's other solutions that have not been explored or talked about, such as the energy to water credit trade we've talked about and I've brought forward. So homeless, we do have an answer for, by the way. Just a quick on the rest of my rebuttal time. And I actually found transportation for them to get them help, and that is through the 12 churches along with our veterans. So there's been some good stuff in the works just since last Friday, so I'm excited about that because I've known for a long time we haven't had a shelter, and it's very frustrating. So we have some solutions there, and I'm excited.
Okay, great. So you got me thinking about my next question here. I'll ask, please state what you would see as the city's role in the Groundwater Authority once accepted by the state.
While we're not the purveyors of water because we have a water district, we do have the wastewater treatment facility, and I believe that does need to go tertiary as long as we have an end user, and I can see how that all plays out. Because instead of using good drinking water in Trona, they could certainly use the treated water for what they need to over there. The cost is building a new pipeline, and that's not going to be cheap to do. So I think we need to have a fairly large role because we need to work with everybody within the valley. And it's just a slightly different role in representing the wastewater treatment and our citizens versus the water district. But it still needs to be a large role because it needs to be elected officials. And the reason I say that is because if you don't like what they are doing, you have a chance to change them out of office, so then they can't sit there and monopolize on the GSA. And I'm a very big fan of that because while they say there's no takings, I still feel like there's takings. So I think being an elected official on that is hugely important.
Do you think that would affect it, though, that it changes out, though, every couple of years? And then you might...
I think it would affect it. I don't think it would affect it in a bad way because the decisions are made by all 5 of the council. But yes, it will.
Okay, thank you. And, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I was just going to see if you were finished or, okay. And so, Dave Matthews, do you have anything to...
Was that her question? I thought you were...
Yeah, that was her question.
Well, I didn't follow it. So
Okay, so the question she was responding to was, as the city, to state what she saw as the city's role in the Groundwater Authority once accepted by the state.
Well, I think I pretty much agree with what she was saying, especially on the tertiary water and whatnot. But
or if you wanted to respond to anything.
Yeah, I want to go back to the homeless. What's going to help the homeless is more jobs, not just here, but nationwide. So you know who to vote for. Tom's answer to the water situation, I agree with him 100%. In fact, I'm going to accuse him as being a mind reader. Because I
don't want to read your mind.
Well, a lot of those ideas you brought up, I have thought about. And there's technology out there where I think we need to start looking at this real hard. And I thought also that Kevin McCarthy had produced some kind of a legislation to help the state, but it doesn't need to just be California. There's the whole Western U.S. has got a problem, but anyhow, I thought there was something he had already put forth to help them find new sources of water, and that's definitely what we need. And also, we can do a rain dance.
That might work. Yay. Hey,
Hey,
I'm going to change.
years ago, my daughter got married and the weather was horrible, and I did some heavy stuff on the knees, and by
that's
the end of
supposed
the
to be good
weekend,
luck.
it was cleared up.
Okay. I have a question that's not a water-based question. We do a lot of work with city, with legal, and I want to know if you think we should put our legal services out to competitive bid.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite follow that.
Should
Can you
our
repeat
legal
some-
services go out to competitive bid?
for the city?
For the city, yeah. We got this guy that we contract
Yeah.
to, and he's here all the time,
Yeah.
and his family. Could we get somebody cheaper if we went out to competitive bid?
Oh boy, probably.
Or better, cheaper, better, whatever.
I don't know. But I'm speechless on that, and I think it's something we ought to maybe look at.
I thought it was something that might be
Yeah.
at least thought about,
Yeah.
not just continue on forever and ever.
Although Wayne, I go back. I've. This is not answering your question, I know, but I think I can lay claim to attending more city council meetings than anybody that's ever been on the council. And
No rebuttal on that.
okay. and Wayne Lemieux
Nobody's
and
gonna
I
argue
go
with you
back
on
a
that
long
one.
ways, and
No.
Keith is all right too. So now that I've covered my, what.
We set this up for a 2-hour question and answer. We've already done an hour. I think it's time for a break.
Okay.
Okay? All right, we're going to take a break, and you people out there stay with us because we will be back. Okay, we're ready. We came back after a break, and I hope everybody had some refreshment or something so that we're ready to go again. And who's on first? I mean,
Question comes to me, but I get a 45-second rebuttal.
okay, well then, are you ready?
I am.
Let's do it. Go
Okay,
for it.
so just
Okay.
a couple of things that we've already talked about. The city suffered a great sacrifice when we lost the redevelopment funds. And there are some out there that felt like that they were lied to on Measure L, which really wasn't true. But
Say that again.
Okay. We lost our redevelopment funds, which gave us a
Oh,
budgetary
absolutely.
crisis.
Okay, I didn't understand.
And
Yeah.
and so some of the funds were used for police. Some of the policemen were taken off of general fund because we just didn't have the money. But rather than go through the specifics, because we only have 45 seconds here, the idea is to be mindful that there's impacts that are given to us by the state. And so I wanted to make sure that, I support Measure V. Because without that, the city that we have will end up being something other than we want, because we could lose up to 15 officers. Our roads that we were seeing work done on would go away. And so it's important, but it's a hard sell to the public because they feel deceived because of the RDA early on. The only other real quick thing is a lot of times ideas on water are great, but that's going to have to start on the federal level because the EPA has the greatest impact. The state has an impact. When you're protecting the salmon or you're protecting the minnow or you're protecting other things, that affects the San Joaquin Valley as well as others. So we have to look at other means other than just Sacramento as well. So we have to be involved citizens.
Big time. Okay, you will ask his question then? Thank you. We're going to try to do this a little bit.
Well, let me just ask you as a city council member then, how do you feel you could get the citizens more involved? Because
You mean
I think that's an issue.
If I'm elected?
Yes.
Well, a lot of that is going to be public relations. It's actually inviting the community. I look at the event that Matthew did, and it was at capacity. Truthfully, when my wife and I were going, we thought maybe that event would have 50 people there, and we had over 400. And I think these kinds of good opportunities, we see churches was talked about earlier that are offering free meals. I see multiple denominations assisting in that effort. You know, when we cooperate together, not only do we get ideas, but we have an opportunity to grow. We can't live in an isolationist kind of environment that says, well, it's my way or the highway. I don't think a councilman or woman will ever have all the ideas that say, this will fix the city. I think that there are directions that we can go so that we can have a positive environment that allows our city to grow and develop. Some of that is compromise. If we go in with it's my way and that's the way it is, then you're going to find that there is no progress. The council has to be able to have a quorum. We have issues that come before the council now, and it's hard to get a quorum. Some see that we're okay, some see that we don't. And so in order for the city to move forward as far as legislating from the council's level, is you have to be able to have a quorum, and so many times we don't have that. But you have to enlist help. Animal control, we enlisted help from the community. We had animal control officers, we had a city planner, we had councilmen, and we had planning commissioners there. And so I think when we have especially hot button issues, please invite the public in, give us your ideas. I think there was a number of public that actually brought solutions and information to the council, and that's what we need, not complaints, but solutions, because I won't think of it all, and neither will anybody else. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And
Warren was saying quorum, but he meant consensus, I think. Quorum is just
Well, a consensus, 3 or more.
yeah, but the quorum is what you need to have the meeting. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And yes, Mr. Martin, would you care to rebut or comment on that question or any other question?
Yes, there's two things that from a standpoint of getting the public involved that I would really like to do, and if I'm elected, I plan to do it. One is to be able to do an instant online survey with all the constituents who wish to participate, wish to give an email, to be participatory, so we can do some instant online polls on real major questions, even without having a big general election or a special election or anything. So that's one thing I like to do. The other thing is to be able to, we pride ourselves, and we advertise this. I do this on the base all the time about how our incredible intellectual capital. We have the largest number of PhDs, the largest number of master's degrees for this little town. We rank in the nation. And yet when it comes across major controversial issues, for instance, like the casino, we don't tap into those people to get their brain trust to let them weigh in on these issues. If I'm elected, I intend to do that via special advisory panels. So yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I have a question, and it's personal, and I was asked to ask this, and you probably know what's coming.
You can ask me anything you want.
Okay. What is
That's
your
what we're here for,
primary residential address?
Is my residential address.
In City of Ridgecrest?
In the city of Ridgecrest, that's correct.
Has it been since you were on Planning Commission?
Since July the 1st,
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Because you've seen it in the paper. It was,
Yeah.
it wasn't, it
Yes.
is, it isn't.
Right. No,
Yeah.
the issue with that, and if you brought it up, I'd be delighted to address it.
I appreciate it, because so many people have
Absolutely.
questions.
In fact, if you give me a little bit more time, I'll be glad to do that because I'm so used to being rushed with all these things.
This is a rush, not a big thing.
It's very difficult. I don't mind answering the real tough one, but I need a few more seconds. Okay.
Okay.
So that's my deal. If that's okay. So first off, I'd like to start off and look at this thing. Well, I want to thank the Daily Independent. This is beautiful. You can get a shot of this. This is really gorgeous. That's the biggest. Look at the spread on that baby. Look at that. I'm flat front and center.
There's your lady.
I want to thank you, yeah, because the picture's terrific. In fact, I'd like to get them to you if you'd send them to me, because I want to send them to the family. So the picture makes me look terrific, and also the caption even absolutely makes me even look more fantastic, because it says here that Mike Wallace speaks at his appointment as Planning Commissioner on August the 3rd. Mike Wallace is one of the country's most respected reporters. Mike Wallace is also a professional ball player, very respected, and a professional race car driver. And so Mike Wallace is a terrific name. So
Are you
anyway,
Mike Wallace?
No, I'm Wallace Martin, dear.
Okay.
So the issue is that we got the picture right, but the caption is wrong. But I thank you for that, and I'd like those pictures. The second thing is this. The thing that's not quite right about this article is a couple of things. Okay, I highlighted a couple of things here. He says, well, he met the voter registration deadline barely. That's absolutely, positively true. I barely made it. You know why? Because I'm working 2 jobs. I'm working a 50-hour job on base with a big job, and now I'm doing another big job. I'm busy. So, yes, I do skid in right under the clock a lot of times. So I'm guilty as charged. Number 2, the next highlight, I slipped in just under the wire yet again. Yes, I certainly did. But the bottom line is, the reason we have a date and time stamp at the city is because you can slip in within 2 seconds. As long as you make it by the school bell, you're good to go. So there's nothing wrong about that, deceitful about that, or anything else. Here's the next thing. As of Wednesday afternoon, Martin failed to respond to multiple requests from the Daily Independent via email and phone for the documentation. So my answer to that is, listen, on my schedule, I'm going to get to the press on my schedule and not the other way around. And I fully intended to answer your questions, which I'm doing right here, and I'm going to answer them tomorrow, but it's on my schedule, not yours. I have another one here, Martin's Close Shave. Look at that, Close Shave. That sounds like an ad for some kind of a men's razor thing. That's what I'm talking about. Look at here. Now I have one here. It says, Sanders said Wednesday, I don't think he has any reason to lie about it. Well, thank you, Jim, because I don't lie. Thank you, Jim. And the last thing, it says he has no memory, Mr. Martin has no memory of receiving, Mr. Sanders, of receiving an application from Martin, and so he has no memory of that because I didn't fill out an application. Thank you very much.
Planning Commission.
Because Mr. Sanders asked me, and I said, yes, we had a verbal contract, and that little paper that was in my pocket is absolutely not needed, according to Rachel Ford. So that's the end of that. So none of this in here, this is drama, okay? The second part of this, though, that I do want to know, but Tom, hold on. No, you asked a very tough question, and I intend to answer it seriously. Ready?
Well,
I have a letter from my attorney.
Everybody else needs that.
I have a letter from my attorney, Mr. Campbell Witten. And although it's 2 pages, I'm going to hit just the highlights. All right?
You're going to have about 30 seconds. If you don't get it done,
Pursuant to your request, I have researched the legal requirements for eligibility for the office of Ridgecrest City Council. And he goes on to say, and no one can rightly make a legal challenge to your eligibility to serve. A simple comparison of the dates of your lease, your voter registration, the date stamp on the foam stamp with official filing form reveals that you have irrefutable evidence of your eligibility for office. Then it goes on, and I will send this to you as promised tomorrow morning.
I have one more quick question. It's a yes or no. Is your address on your driver's license the Lee address?
No.
You have 10 days from the DMV from the time you move to change your address.
It's for voter registration, and I changed that well within the timelines, okay? The reason I have not changed for my official driver's license, because I'm, in addition to renting in the city, I'm going to the extra step and purchasing a property in the city, and I'm going to put my address on my driver's license for that, not the temporary place that I'm renting.
Okay, well, we've kind of beat the dead horse, so let's move on then. Lindsey, do you have any rebuttal or anything you'd like to say?
No, I don't need to rebuttal that at all. I think I'll go back to the other question, though, back to getting the people tied in more. And I think we really need to look more at transparency. I think that's been a consistent thing that we've heard is a problem. I think Wallace brought up the casino issue, and I think a lot of things would have been avoided if we had been more transparent and given more notice to the public and asked for more input further out from, because I think immediately people came out thinking it was listed as an action item, so they thought it was going to be voted on. And the council said they were never planning to vote on it. But it's just, we need to be more transparent. we do need to do a better job at putting it out there. Ms. Acton's talked about using Facebook more. Unfortunately, that is where a lot of my generation gets their news and finds out about events, and that's just how it is. And so we need to tap into that market more. Every city council meeting, we should have an event notice posted out and put it out for the whole city to do more public relations. And his idea of doing polling is fantastic. So.
Very good. Lindsey, this question is for you. You are a new planning commissioner, so I'd be curious to know how you would feel. Do you believe that the city was wrong by pursuing code violations against Dale Howard? And if so, what changes would you make to the zoning ordinance to permit junkyards to flourish within residential neighborhoods in our fair city?
Hey, this is a tough question. I'm typically more conservative, and so I understand he was harming the property values in the area, and I think there was probably both parties were wrong in some parts. Should he have cleaned up his property a little sooner? Probably, to be a good citizen. And I think also the city, maybe if we could have helped a little bit more, and I think probably if it would have been put out to the public more, maybe some churches would have stepped in, some good people, and helped him get it in order sooner. Maybe we should have had him build a wall around his property, not with shipping containers. But yeah, I think...
So no changes to the zoning ordinance then? Or would you make them? Because his property and the surrounding properties were zoned residential, single-family residential.
Yeah.
Not junkyard.
Right. I think part of the issue was I think he was annexed into the city and he had those peacocks for a long time.
He's been in the city since
No?
1964.
Okay. Sorry, someone had told me he was annexed and it was part of the county before. And he had those peacocks for a number of years. Yeah.
Sure, but it wasn't a junkyard in 1964.
Right. So, I think they should adhere to city ordinance, and I don't think you should be changing it to accommodate one man. That I wouldn't do that. And peacocks, they sound like screaming children, so I wouldn't want to live next to that. So.
Thank you.
Rebuttal.
Okay, I would go along with the fact that the municipal code is there. It's to be enforced. If it needs to be changed, it needs to be changed by the city council. However, the code should be used fairly and equally. We cannot decide which laws we follow and which ones we don't. And that's until you come over that hurdle and say, this is what we got to do. My point in the whole conversation, though, is we all have our personal property rights. And we like to exercise those any way we want to, except when you think your rights can tread on your neighbor's rights. That's when that stops. Yes, you have a right to enjoy your property the way you want to, but not to the detriment of somebody else. They both have equal rights to their property use. One real quick rebuttal, talking about Facebook and doing polling and stuff like that. Wallace, I want you to know that there is right now a good candidate site that 3 of us are participating on for candidates, and there's been talk about mentioning you in there. I would suggest you join into if you're such an advocate of the Facebook, I suggest you join in with us there. And that's it. Go ahead.
Okay. My question is regarding the 395, and I've heard both you have spoken on the 395, and I think Dave Matthews has spoken on the 395, but you get the question. So what was there was an issue with the safety of 395 and the highway being,
Are you talking about Project 395 or the Route 395?
The Route 395. I thought
As far as it's not being built like it's supposed to be?
Well, I thought it had to do with the safety. You were speaking about the 395, so I beg your pardon. Let me just ask you this question, Tom. Excuse the question.
Okay. I mean,
Let's talk about Project 395. High-speed internet has yet to reach its potential. How would you remedy this problem for small businesses and residents?
Okay, that is the real problem with Project 395, and I looked into trying to get it here for the TV station, and that is it's 2 blocks away was where it ends, and I was told to hook up. It would cost me $50,000 to go 2 blocks, and I can't afford that. I'm sorry, I just cannot afford to put in infrastructure for $50,000. So now, from what I understand, is that now there's discussion about trying to make it more affordable for businesses to get tapped into it, because it's something that we could use for the TV station without a doubt, because we're using satellite feeds. It'd be nice if there's so much more available if we could have high-speed internet, and Project 395 would bring that to us. All it has to do is be made affordable so we can use it.
And it was $50,000, is that what you said?
To
or-
go 2 blocks to get it
Wow.
here.
Okay, very interesting.
Yes.
So thank you very much.
Okay.
Let's see if Lori has any response or comment in that regard. Or
I do, and he's absolutely correct. It is absolutely atrocious, and part of that has to do with the current provider here and with the Digital 395 and the tie-in. So we've been working on that and negotiating that, and there's attorneys involved and trying to fix that issue. Because it is an issue, and it's not just our community. It's all the communities along the corridor have been affected. Some of the smaller, underserved and unserved communities, such as Boron, have had small private people come in to connect those communities so that they can get internet service. But we're talking about communities that were still on dial-up or none at all. But again, it doesn't excuse the cost, and I'm not the first time I've heard it. So we are working on it. I don't know what the solution is because I have not had a chance to follow up on it in a while.
thank you both.
It got to the base, though, right?
Oh, yeah, it goes all the way up to Reno. It's everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's
but
underneath the city. It's underneath the library. It's underneath fire departments and those types of emergency services. Yes,
Okay.
it is a great asset, and we need to exploit it and make server farms and other things, but I go on. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay. Although the casino MSA and the land sale have been approved, a long process is still required before any sort of complex can be built. What would you support these plans? If elected, would you specifically try to stop the process or expect it to go forward?
I am pretty sure, if you don't know, I'm a huge supporter of the casino and the good that it can bring to the community, because I've lived near them and near Navy bases that had them for a very long time. The MSA is amazing in the fact that we got stuff in there thanks to the community and talking to the community that other communities don't have. And they had brought to us, this is their wish list if they could do it again and what they would like. And the community came out and they talked about it, and we included those things, such as the waiving of the sovereign immunity. So those things are being, those things were put in there to protect us as a city. We've all done a ton of homework. Living in Washington State for many years, I went straight up there. I went to the county assessor. I went to how it works completely all the way around. What are your challenges? What works? What didn't work with the cities and the counties up there? Because I wanted to know. And then we just trickled that all the way down because everybody tackled different issues, either with Lemoore or San Diego or all the places that have bases around them. So we knew what we were facing, both the challenges and the good side of it. So I'm very, very pleased because it's going to go towards retention. I have businesses searching out us now instead of the other way around, and that's what I discovered at ICSC simply because of the casino. And that was unheard of. Usually I have to explain where Ridgecrest or China Lake is. People actually knew. I was so surprised. I didn't know what to do. So, yeah, it's a good thing.
Yes, Mr. Matthews, would you like to rebut?
Wow. If I were elected, I probably would be revisiting that thing, yes. It's too complex to just summarize here in a couple of seconds, because I want to also go back and touch on Tom's thing about the broadband. I'm sitting in on the broadband committee, which is an entirely voluntary committee. We have not been meeting recently because the chairman is out of the country for a while and won't be back until next week. But we are looking at the costs, and I would like to know who it is that you referred to when you say we are looking into it, Lori, because I don't think anybody on the broadband committee has heard anything about any lawyers being involved. But there is also a meeting sometime first part of October here, and I don't have the date exactly, up in Bishop for the CBC, California Broadband Consortium, or whatever it is.
The Eastern Sierra Connect Regional Broadband Consortium?
Yeah.
This, okay.
That's what I've heard.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm hoping to get up there and sit in on that.
They meet at the hostel.
Okay. Wow.
And we as the
There was
county,
something
by the
about,
way.
yeah, the county?
The county and the city
Okay.
because of some other issues.
Lindsey, I forgot what your question was.
Mr. Howard.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Howard. I'm really feeling for Mr. Howard because I think that whole thing got out of hand. Excuse me. He's not a bad man. He's done some very charitable stuff around the community. And I understand, and I'm not an expert on it, I'm not as close as some people, but I understand that he made or was given a deal with somebody in the city government, city administration, at the time he put in those seed vans. So whether or not it legally got recorded or not, that's something else. But that's my answer. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Did you want to, would you like a question, Mr. Matthews? Okay, so now I get to give you a question. This is back to water again. I think everybody on this panel, I believe that all the participants would agree that Sacramento is clearly not doing its job when it comes to taking better advantage of our water resources. However, you're running for city council. The people watching this program are going to be voting for you for city council. And so while we can all agree that more has to be done at a state level, I'm going to ask this question. It has been proposed that importing water could be a solution to our depleted aquifer. Do you think that is realistic?
Yes, I do. I think it's very realistic. But the problem is, it's probably got to come a long way. During some of the formation hearings or whatever they were for the GSA, is that right? Yeah. Several people, not including myself, got up and said, why don't we build a Keystone pipeline for water? Meaning, get it from Canada, get it from back in the Midwest where the water is plentiful and bring it out here. And it would be a complex network, but like Tom says, we could use the freeway right-of-ways to do some of that stuff too. It's not entirely impossible.
Thank you.
And that's from an engineering standpoint, in my view.
Yeah, we do seem to have a lot of those engineers in our town. Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all your answers so much. We're getting down to the bottom, and what I'd like to hear from you now is about 3 minutes from each of you with your pet peeves, your pet projects, your why you should be elected, and anything that you feel like I didn't ask you that you would like to get out there. And I'll give you 3 minutes each, and we'll start with you. Okay?
Well, thank you. It's been a nice forum here tonight, and
Well, thank you all for being here.
we appreciate the station for hosting us. There's a lot of things that we could discuss, and the challenge that we've had here tonight is that various subjects come up and you don't really get an opportunity to address them, and I understand that. I think in the last segment, I want to address a little bit of that because it kind of addresses a little bit of my concerns. We find with the Howard project, we find that city officials said, well, just put up containers. And they may have said that on the fly, but it was very inappropriate because it's not part of the zoning. We sat in a committee meeting just this week where we had 2 elderly ladies that came in and was complaining about the city yard where they mix the desert mix. And they had a reasonable complaint, and they didn't have any place else to go. But they had a city official that said, move. If you don't like it, move. And so we find some insensitivity by some that are employed by the city. We need to be sensitive to our citizenry and their quality of life that we've talked about here tonight. We talk about broadband. The 395 project by mandate brought the broadband into every city, county, state, and school into the valley. So that broadband, Tom, goes all the way down to Richmond and to a building that I have because there was a county school that was there. One of the suggestions that I made to the city early on when I was planning commission was the technology is there for us to transmit high-speed internet, to actually compete. Our biggest source of high-speed internet is our cable company. There's a lot of cities that are going into business, doing their own utilities, doing their own things to try and generate revenue because the revenue streams are drying up. And this is what I do for a business, is cable television and high-speed internet. So when you look at those kinds of things, we have the ability, but I was told, well, do you know what that would cost? But the city has an opportunity. They can bond where other people may not be able to bond. The other response was, well, you know how many employees we'd have to have? Oh, that would just be awful to actually be able to pay and make a profit and employ additional people. So there's lots of things that can become an issue, but sometimes we find in our current state is closed minds. And we need to look outside the box and have fresh looks at ideas that might generate funds, that might improve the quality of life, might retain our millennials that was talked about. But there are so many issues that we could sit down and talk about that could have possible solutions. But I think that comes from all of us getting together. They've talked about the broadband committee, but yet I don't think they've looked at that specific idea to where the city becomes a provider and generates the revenue. But that's happening all over the country. So I would hope that you would vote for me so that I bring in fresh ideas to the community from a business sense. I'm not an engineer, but I've owned and operated businesses. I know how to make them successful. I've done it. I continue to do it. That's where we need to be. So thank you, and I hope I can count on your vote.
I would like, if I could, please, to rebut the, just real quick on my 40 seconds, the bald-haired gentleman with the strong southern accent. I think his name is Mike Wallace. One thing that Mike Wallace said earlier that the Daily Independent said, I'd like to clarify this. You asked me a highly personal question at my address. And I gave you a highly personal answer, which I really didn't have to give because Lori doesn't list her address. She just lists her address as a city hall. Peggy Breeden years ago had issues with residency, and so did Mr. Maurer, and so did. I would strongly request that you do not publish the address that I gave you, Jessica, as well, because I'm renting from a friend on a temporary basis. And I don't want to have people, that's not really fair. All of us would have to be giving their personal address information. I ask that you don't do that. So that's my rebuttal first and request. In closing, I think that one of the 1,500-pound gorilla in the room, you ask, what's the big project, the big thing, the big thing, the one thing that Curly said. You know what the one thing is? It's water. And our supervisor has stated again and again that our basin is in 30% overdraft. Our commander has spoken about that water issues can encroach on the mission of our base, which, oh, by the way, is the largest employer in the valley. Without the base, there's no town. Without water, there's no town. And so anything that we do to infringe upon water at this point in time in history is absolutely critical. And my major objection to the casino was not because of the shows and the glitz and the glamour and all of that, or for any moral reason. What most people have not gotten the message, and I presented it to the council twice and sent them a document. The problem is, if anyone will take the time to Google the state and nation on this, these foreign nation casinos under the sovereign immunity is like a foreign government. And they are scooping up water rights all over the country. And if you want to Google Montana and some other places, you will be horrified. My main concern is that we had protective clauses in our original MSA. And if the casino were not interested in taking our water, they would have left all those clauses in place, wouldn't they? No, they would have left them all in place. And do you know, when it was all said and done, the promoters took all of our protective clauses out. And now it only says that we may connect to city water. I invite all of the public to go and look up the Barona Casino around San Diego, where they put in a golf course, drain the town dry. Then people's property values plummeted. They have to sell their homes back to the casino for pennies on the dollar. Then the casino went dry and they started heading out for another thing. I'm worried about water. That's my number one issue. Property rights is another thing. Huge issue dealing with the casino. I'm not worried about crab legs and shows and all this stuff. I'm worried about our water and our property rights. Those are 10,000-pound gorillas that threaten this town. And this thing should have been put to a vote of all of the people, not just 5. Because our citizens, our highly intellectual citizens, had no voice and no choice. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are you ready for your 3 minutes?
Yes.
All right.
So, all right. So I've touched on it again. I'm running because I want to help us to be more proactive and stop being so reactive. I want to insist on there being multiple alternatives presented, that we get the information well in advance of any kind of resolution. And I think also tapping into our public. We've talked about how highly educated we are here. And if there's retired people that are willing to volunteer their time to help dig into our finances and overlook our budget, we need to be more willing to accept that and not be prideful and fight it. I think also the budget, we really need to sit down and seriously analyze it and make sure that we are fully in compliance. I've had a few things brought to my attention that maybe some funds are being tapped into more than they should be by paying salaries, and I think we need to be very mindful of that, because we don't need to be paying out money because we've been in violation, and we might end up getting audited. I think economic development, we've talked about that. Again, I want to say we need to make sure that we're being friendly to economic development and not stifling it or causing too many bumps and hurdles to go over. Again, I just want to say I have a Facebook page. Find me on Facebook. I have a website, lindseystevens.us. Visit those, check out my video, and you can learn more about me. Message me if you have any questions, and come out and vote for Lindsey Stevens on November 8th.
I agree with her.
Okay, I was afraid it was going to come down to, what she said, right?
No, I don't agree with that. Okay. In closing, I just want to bring up some of the things that I hope the people look at when they make their decision on who to vote for. They can select 2 of us up here and there's one, Scott Lee, he's missing. So there's 7 people running for city council. You can pick 2. I would ask that you look at more than just, do we look good or do you know us? Also look at the qualifications and the background and the experience they bring to the office. It's not just one thing that gets you inspired to run for city council all of a sudden. It's, what are you investing into this? Getting ready for the job. I've been on the planning commission, I've been on city council, along with the stuff I said earlier. Not only that, I'm an Army veteran. I was in the Army from 69 to 72. I belong to numerous organizations here. I do a lot in the shooting world, as I have a business that's Guns for Us, and I'll put in a commercial. And we do a lot for the Valley. And I'll tell you one thing I did, and I said this when the Admiral gave his briefing to the city council the other night. I kind of said it jokingly, but I have a lot of new customers coming in the store every week that are coming, new engineers to the base. And seriously, they really do come in and want to know what's going on in the town and what's available, what's there to do. And I spend a lot of time with them because I want to welcome these new people to our town. And I think every business in this town should take the same approach. One thing I want to bring back that I did back when I was on the council last time is regular town hall meetings. Just to open up and talk to the people and hear the things they have on their mind. We did this once a quarter, and they were always attended by 20 to 40 people every time. Well, they have town halls now, but only when there's a big controversial project going on. Okay, well, it doesn't have to be just that. Just do it all the time. Just do it regularly. And just sit down and have the people be able to come in and talk and tell you what's on their mind. It's important that the people think that the council is listening to them. And so many times we get up during public comment and we say things and the council just sits there and looks at us. Of course, their answer is, well, we can't take any action on stuff you bring up in public comment. That's right, but you can talk to us. Offer comments back when we ask a question. Sometimes they do answer questions, sometimes they don't. The comment just rolls off into the sunset without a comment. And if people take the time to get up and say something, have a discussion. Communication goes 2 ways, not one. It's important, and while the person is there. Anyway, I would ask that you vote for me November 8th. Make me one of your choices. I would do everything I can to make sure that you have a voice and you'll be listened to on the city council. Thank you.
Okay, are you ready for 3 minutes?
No, but I'll try.
Can you do it in 3.5 minutes?
3.5 maybe, yes. I might need 4. I've listened tonight and I've learned a lot from everybody up here. As I am the incumbent, and I don't mean that to brag. What I'm saying is we've done a really bad job, again, at communicating to the public, because a lot of answers here were I knew the answers to, and you should have too, which means we did not communicate, again, as a council. And that's something that I've wanted to fix for 4 years. I have worked on, and I'm not doing a very good job, so I need to do better. And I want to do better. A lot of people know that, when I'm up there, you can text a question, you can email, you can Facebook. I do not care. I try to answer everything or ask the questions for those who aren't there, because that's very, very important to do. And when we talk about transparency, I think we're as transparent as we can get. We're almost see-through. The problem is we're not communicating. It's not the transparency, it's the communicating. That's where we seem to be lacking. And, we've touched on the broadband, the instant survey. We do those, actually. That's what we hired Justin O'Neill for, as well as PR. So we've done that on a lot of topics. The tourism is another huge one that we've only barely touched on tonight. But the RACVB, Doug Luke, the Film Commission, I've worked with them for a lot of years. I love what I do. We do the corridor. We're working with Death Valley in a partnership. We're working with Kern County. We do the powwows. We get our information out there, but I think there's more that we can do that we haven't done. And we just need the bodies, right? That's always the case. We just need the bodies. And I would really like to engage millennials in that, because I think it's something that they would enjoy. But we got to find a way to do that. And we do that by meeting them where they are. That's what we do. On a couple of keynotes for me, Tom, I like to say there's an app for that, but there's not yet. But I want to work on that, and so I've asked some people that develop apps to work on that. As far as information and community calendar and those types of things, have a tendency to run into territorial issues with other people. We're a community. We need to work together. We need to put those things aside. Back in the day when I was growing up, wasn't that long ago compared to some of you, but takes a village to raise a child. Well, we need to go back to that because it takes all of us to make our community great, not just one person or two person doing the work. Or it takes all of us, and in order to do that, we have to work together to make that happen. So we'll work on that. And the only other thing I wanted to touch on was something that has been a pet project of mine for 6 years. And I'm finally able to work on veteran transport, getting our veterans to Loma Linda or LA, and at no cost to the veteran. And so I'm very proud of that because it's taken a long time to get there and a lot of hard work. And I'm excited. I'm very, very excited to finally make that happen because veterans are very near and dear to me. My dad's a World War II 101st Airborne veteran, and my husband was 12 years Navy, and my grandfather was World War I. I could go on. So, so I'm glad and I'm excited. And I grew up here. I remember the 80s. It was good. We had excess money, but it was good. But we had everything I needed. And that's all I want to help our community to do again, is to have gainful employment, have everything we need here, enjoy our life here, because we have a great quality of life. It's a great place to raise a family. Thanks.
Just have to tell those people. Yeah. Okay, David, how about a sum up?
How long do I get?
3 minutes.
12. Oh, 12? Okay, thank you.
You're going to do it because we're going home.
Oh.
You can keep talking.
All right. Okay, I've made this quote a couple of times at city council meeting from Sam Adams. Neither the wisest constitution nor the wisest laws will secure the liberty and happiness of a people whose manners are universally corrupt. I have, over the years, noticed a lot of that happening. We are losing this country, and it's already started to trickle in here. That's partly why I decided to step forward this cycle. I don't know that I'm going to be able to solve all the problems of Ridgecrest. Nobody can. But I want to put us in certain directions that I think we should be looking. And the broadband committee has already mentioned that idea of the city perhaps getting into the business of providing broadband and making a little bit of money for the coffers, but it's a rather complex problem, and it's been kind of downplayed right now. Bill Summers came up with that idea quite a while ago. So, Mr. Cox, if you get elected, you can work on that with him. I certainly hope to be able to sit up there once in a while now, because regardless of whether I get the votes to get there, I want to be down there anyway. Yeah. So there. But the reason I decided to run is because they don't listen to me. So I want to get up there where I can actually do some
like Tom said, it goes.
Yeah. What else can I say? Yeah, I'm a veteran. Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You've got a little time.
30 seconds.
Oh, 30 seconds. I'm sorry. Well, come out and vote for me. I had hoped to have a website available for announcement tonight, but it's not quite there yet. Hopefully, maybe in the next couple of days I can get there. And also, I don't do Facebook, but my email address is easy to remember. And if you don't know it, ask Alexander. Matthew, he knows it.
You can give it if you want to.
Well,
You don't want to?
yeah.
Okay.
DAMMAD31@gmail.com.
There you go.
We have a big
Thank
round
you.
of applause for
Oh,
all of the
absolutely.
candidates.
You guys were wonderful. I thank you all for being here. It was wonderful. I apologize if I ask any questions that were rude. I did not mean to, but they were on my list of things that I had been asked to ask. So I think you guys have a big hurdle ahead of you because I don't see anything problem with all of you. So somebody's got to vote for 2, right? Okay. Thank you very much, and maybe we'll do this again.